Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be covering 11, 12, I don't know, maybe 13 utensils that I couldn't live without. I mean, they're just really, really nice things to have. And unlike the previous two lessons where I talked about things you really needed to elevate your cooking and cook like a pro, these are just really nice things to have, and I thought I'd go over them with you one by one today. I'll be right back in 3 seconds. Okay, no particular order, let's get on with it. First one, cutting mats. Cutting board, I mean, that's what everybody used to use until these things came along. I personally like these better than a cutting board, primarily, well, a couple, 3 different reasons. One, they're certainly cheaper than a cutting board, albeit they do need to be replaced from time to time. But they're color coded and you can use them for different things, and primarily in separating raw meat from other things that you might be cutting up, essential for avoiding cross-contamination into your other food items. The other thing I use them for is typically during some meals that I cook, I might use 2 or 3 of these things. I use them as part of my mise en place, a term that means getting everything ready, and we'll go into more of that in another lesson. Another goodie is a remote thermometer. This is the remote part of it, and this is the local part of it. You can put this in your meat. It plugs into the side of this, and you keep that wherever it is local next to your grill or your oven. Typically those are going to be the places that you're going to want to use these things. And the nice thing is you can walk away and not have to be coming back to check the temperature of your meat time and time again. And the other good thing about it is you don't have to poke the meat multiple times every time you have to go in there and take a temperature. Really a great device. I don't know how I lived without it. Next item up, bench scraper. This is a bench scraper, kind of probably a bit of a small variety, but it's fairly average. This is something that most people use when it comes to baking, especially when it comes to bread making. It's a great tool for dividing and portioning your baked item, and also when you're kneading it or rolling it out, to use this edge to scrape underneath. Can you use another tool? Sure, you can use a knife or some other similar thing you might have. I really wouldn't recommend using a knife in place of it. I think pretty much before, as I kind of suffered without it, to be honest with you. The other nice use for this thing is when you're getting your meal prepped. It's great for scooping underneath and moving things from one place to another. I use it all the time. Salt and pepper mills. My wife gave me these things for Christmas. We used to have another set. These are rechargeable, which are great. These also hold more than the previous ones. And what I really, really like about these is the ability to just take this and go like this over the top of your food with a real, you can do it very quickly, but the real good thing is it doesn't take 2 hands like a manual one when you got to do this. Hold it up there, press a little button, throw a little bit of salt on, and you can, it's really great for just little bit, or even not having to make your wrist work with an old arthritic wrist like mine. And I just love them. Silicone mats. All right. Silicone mat, sometimes called a pat, I believe. Anyway, this is what they look like. They fit on a baking tray, which I'll get to in a minute. Basically, these things are non-stick mats that you can put into a baking tray. I do think they come in different sizes, but these are the perfect size for a baking tray. They're easy to clean up, whatever it is that you want to put on there. They're great for when you get into baking, bread making, certain other types of things, but they can also be used for, yeah, maybe if you were doing fondant potatoes or some other type of thing. Like, for example, I do stuffed poblano peppers, and they have a tendency to kind of leak and spill out. So instead of a baking dish, you can put it on one of these Silpat liners, put it on there, and then they really, really clean up easy. Baking tray. Those liners fit right inside one of these things. They're big enough, easy to handle to get your mitts, oven mitts on, and pull that out of the oven. Works great. Very, very convenient. Parchment paper. All right, I've got a bunch of these. Hang on. All right. So parchment paper comes like this. There's a version of parchment paper that comes in a roll, like if you were buying cellophane wrap or aluminum foil or other thing. I bought these because they're the same size as a sheet pan, and they also work great for doing some of the baked goods when you're looking for a non-stick surface. Things just peel right away. It largely eliminates the need for using cooking spray. The other great thing about these things is that they're easily cut into however many portions you need them. And then there's on occasion where you want to be able to take whatever it is you're working with and move it around while you shape it, form it, whatever it is. And it's a little bulky if you're using a full-size one or if it's in a baking tray already. This one you can cut out a smaller piece of paper, move it on there, shape it and turn it and spin it or whatever, and then pick it up and put it on the baking tray. Works great. Cooling rack. I would recommend, if you're going to get one or if you don't have one, that you get one, at least one, and this size or they're about this size. Otherwise, you get one much smaller than that, you're probably going to find yourself in the need for two of them. I use them primarily for when I deep fry things and I want things to be able to drain. I'll put some paper towels underneath it and let it go that way. And then it's pretty much an essential item in baking bread and some other pastry type of items. It's really necessary to try to get the item pulled away from whatever heat source, pans, etc., to get air underneath it and to allow it to cool. A whisk, next item up. We had one of these before I got seriously into cooking, although it was bigger than this and wasn't nearly as well shaped and formed as this one. I ended up buying a set of 3. This one is the smallest of the 3, and it's pretty much the one that I use all the time. Can you use a fork? Sure. I think all of these things I'm showing you today have substitutes, other things that you can use. They're just not quite as nice, not quite as handy, not quite as useful as the tools that I'm showing you. That's true. You don't need a remote thermometer. You can use an instant read. But these are so nice when you're slow cooking something either on the grill or in the oven, to be able to just walk away and take the temperature with you. So next item up, something that I've also procured since I've been seriously cooking. And these are a pair of food grade scissors. Quite sharp actually, and I use them exclusively for cooking. When do I use them? If I'm going to open up a lobster tail, extremely helpful for doing something like that. On occasion, depending upon what I'm doing with a whole chicken. Normally a whole chicken I'm going to break down into 8 pieces, and I don't need these. But there are those times when either I want to spatchcock a chicken, or even on the occasion that I want to completely debone one, or some other type of besides just breaking it down into its eight essential pieces, I'll go for these. I don't use them a lot, but when I need one, you need one. And I find them quite helpful. And the spray bottle, all right. This particular spray bottle has oil in it. Another one with water is also helpful. The water when you get into baking bread, to be able to spritz your oven to help the crust form on top of your baked items. This one has oil, and I use it primarily to spritz a pan, but that's not exclusively how I use it. Where I find this most handy is really trying to cut down and conserve how much cooking oil I use. I don't know if you're aware of it, but cooking oil is roughly 100 calories per tablespoon, a little bit more depending upon exactly what kind of fat you're using. I personally have to kind of watch my weight. Right now I've got it pretty well under control, other than I'd like to lose a few more pounds. But one of the things that I found when I really started cooking seriously is my, we'll call it a habit, a stupid habit of, when I needed to put some fat in a pan by just putting some in there without really paying very much attention to how much I was actually doing. In some cases, I'm sure I was putting in a couple of tablespoons worth, and most of the time, you just don't need that much. You just need a little bit. And I find that this is a great way of applying a little bit of cooking oil. Typically, 2 or 3 sprays, that's all it takes, unless you're really getting ready to saute a serious meat item, and then you might need a whole tablespoon. Okay, and the last item I wanted to talk about was this little puppy here behind me. We used to have, that's an air fryer oven. We used to have a regular toaster oven, and it died. And and the old toaster oven I never used. I'm not a big person for toasting things. It was my wife's exclusively, and it died. And when it came time to replace it, she said, I want one of those kind that does everything, and especially one that does air frying. And I thought, yes, dear, whatever makes you happy. So I went off and I looked for all the all-in-one, does everything kind of things. That was what we ended up with. Well, surprise, surprise. I use it all the time. I mean, 4 or 5 times a week. I use it all the time. And I do because it's convenient. It's summertime here in Arizona. Why fire up my oven when I can fire that up? It's really, really convenient. Things cook just a little bit faster in it. If sometimes I want, I've got the added bonus of air frying something. It cuts down on the amount of fat that I have to put in my diet. And it also substitutes as an oven. Now, this particular one said it does 11 things. Well, fact of the matter is it probably only really does 3 things. Boil or broil or toast, pretty much the same thing. Air fry and all the other things in between, because nothing's really different other than the temperature you set it at. And you can do that manually. So the truth of the matter is that it really doesn't do 11 things. At least I wouldn't categorize it. But that doesn't take away from the fact that I really enjoy having it and the addition that it's made to my kitchen. All right, that's all I have for today. It's been great being here with you. Signing off. See you next time. Thank you.